Okay. This place, they called it ritual implements. Basically, this is a warehouse where they store such tools used in rituals. Well, more accurately, maybe it's a temple where the implements are enshrined. The ritual hoe Rika is using for the offertory dance was inside here until today. Of course, if anyone but the Fude family enters, they'll bring impurity into it, so absolutely no one is allowed a single step inside it. It's a sanctuary. Shouldn't we absolutely not be coming to a place like this then? However, Takano was wearing a childlike expression, innocent smile at best, and terribly cruel grin at worst. I told you I was researching Himazawa's folk tales and legends out of an interest in them, didn't I? A lot of the answers to questions I'm curious about are hidden away inside here. I've waited all this time until today for this chance. A chance. Everybody's eyes were fixed on the dance at the shrine grounds today. This was the ultimate blind spot. I see. I didn't know you had lockpicking skills, Tomitake. Stop it. I don't want to be doing this, okay? Sorry for taking along with me, but this was all thanks to you, Jiro. I really am grateful. Sheesh. This is the only time I understand, Takano. I don't want to be sneaking into places like this. You really are a good person, Jiro. Oh, great. Clink. Tomitake undid the padlock and placed it on the side. It's open. Thank you. At long last, Takano gulped with an unusually expected air about her. She gave a heavy door shove. Oh, great. The sharp smell of mold and dust flowed out from the gap in the doors. I had claimed curses didn't exist, but in this situation, I could believe in them. If we went inside such a holy place with our shoes on, it would feel like we could be punished somehow. How about your accomplices too? You came all the way here, so why not come in and take the tour? It'd be a little field trip to the Museum of Precious Cultural Artifacts that conceal the secret history of Himezawa. And it's only open today. We're not accomplices or anything. Aren't you interested though? Come on, let's take a peek. No, you don't take a peek. Just run. Shino said, particularly linking her arm with mine. But we shouldn't be doing this. This is a holy warehouse, isn't it? You said ritual implements, right? I really feel like we shouldn't go in. I'm a part of the Sonozaki family, so I have a good guess as to what will find in there. But I want you to see it too, Kei-chan. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. You want to show something to me? I thought it was just a ploy, but Shion's eyes looked entirely serious. Of course, she was the sort who could lie with a straight face. Of course, I was an average boy too. My curiosity was at least twice that of a normal person. Sleeping forbidden treasures, never to leave this warehouse. Chances like this don't come around too often. If I had to choose, then I'd want to see. Till the locked door is open, though, I don't know about this. If you're not interested, Keitron, then you can leave now. Think you'll wonder about it later, though. Tomitake spoke after listening to our discussion himself, having sat down on the stairs to take a short rest. I'll keep watch here, go in, check it out with them. I'm not too interested, but it might be pretty interesting for a young guy like you, Kate Uchi. Foo foo foo. He said, laughing maliciously. No! Don't ever! Uh, there was no ill will in his laughter. Tomitake, do you know what's it here? Kind of. Takano told me all about it. Must be a pain to have to go along with your companion's unique hobbies, huh? Tomitake didn't answer that, only responding with a pained smile. Takano had this kind of scary air about her, like she dropped absolutely everything else for something she had an interest in and go straight for it. But Tomitake, on the other hand, seemed like the gold standard of what a normal person should be. Having him tell me to So frankly, go check it out suddenly made the guilt feel lighter. Big mistake. Okay. But just for a little. If it's not interesting, I'm leaving. No shit. You got Shion gave me another me on like wink. Gah. Looks like we're decided. Shall we go inside? Jiro, we'll leave this to you. Tomitake waved his hand to see us off. No, I don't want to go in. I want to go away. Inside was pitch black, but Takano turned on a battery-powered lantern she brought, revealing a pretty cramped front room. It's so dark in here. Everyone, take care not to trip over anything. I appreciate the concern. Okay, doorman, keep a good watch. We're shutting the door now. Takano smiled spitefully as if leaving Tomitake out of something fun and began to close the door. Man, alright, everyone, have fun. There was a low, heavy, and loud noise, and we were completely cut off from the outside world and covered in silent darkness. Takano's lantern was the only light we had. It'll be fine. It's an outdoor lantern with backup batteries inside. It won't go out or anything. Looks like Takano noticed my uneasy expression. I couldn't help but blush a little and avert my gaze. Deeper inside, there was a heavy and old but sturdy door that with solemn decorations on it. It was the last door sealing away what was within. Strange how it has a antechamber even though it's just a warehouse, isn't it? I believe it's set up this way so that you open one door at a time, never letting the room with all the tools be seen from the outside. Takano explained this, awfully impressed by the construction. But still, it's really dark in here. Huh? That or there it's I spot a circuit breaker hanging from a clump of wiring clumsily attached to the wall. Oh, here, isn't this a light switch or something? I flipped the biggest switch I could find, and with a click, the pitch black room was illuminated by an old bare light bulb. Everyone scrunched up their faces all of a sudden at the sun's strobe like brightness. Don't! Before she even finished, she slapped my hand and flipped the switch back. There was another loud click, and the room returned to darkness with only the lantern for illumination. Ow! You can't, Kei-chan. We snuck in here, remember? If you turn on the light, it might give us away. I'm scolded by Shion fairly harshly. It looked like she was worried about whether someone had seen them from the momentary light. It's alright. It was only for a moment. Takano remained a relaxed adult. It seemed like she was confident she could talk her way out of it. And so this is. Oh, great. Let's go in. Here we go. There. Oh, great. I don't wanna. The even heavier door opened, and this time, it wasn't just the dust that came out with the air. There was also a nasty smell. One smell was the opening of dust-filled cardboard, or oh, one smell was like opening a dust-filled cupboard in the back of a kitchen that hasn't been opened in years. And the other smell, the nasty one, was hard to explain, but it was like the raw odor of a fish market. Oh no. From how the sound echoed, the room felt far larger than the first. Takano held up her lantern and revealed the contents of the expansive room. Whoa. The back wall of the storehouse, right in front of us, was a Buddha-like holy object standing there looking down at us. I was taken aback by its unseen force, lit up by the slender beam of the lantern. That's the guardian god of Himazawa, Oashira. It's far grander than the one at the shrine, Oashiro. So this is the spirit protecting Himazawa, the one guarding the holy land of Himazawa from the impurities of the outside world, and the one delivering punishment after punishment upon those who attempted to sully the land with dam construction. Looks like it. It looks like there are far more tools stored here than I thought, but This is so sad. None of them have been maintained. How unfortunate that they're in such a state. Even in dim light, I could see a lot of strange objects lining the walls, ceiling, and shelves. Takano, speaking as if in a trance, was infatuated by the various implements filling the dark room. They weren't very festive like or traditional, but instead were more like the it was more this was more like the workshop of a blacksmith or a carpenter. There were a lot of large wooden and metal tools packed in here. Putting it bluntly, it was all pretty boring stuff. I imagine there would be more artistic things in here from the hidden period, but these are far cry from being cultural artifacts. My expression betrayed my dashed hopes, and they caught on right away. Oh, is this not interesting for you? I'm not into literature or art, so I can look at this stuff, but I don't really understand its value. Keiichi, you really do look like you don't get it. I guess that's only natural. Takano reached into the paper bag she had been holding the whole time, took out a worn scrapbook, and began to flip through it. And just for you, Keiichi, I'll tell you an old story. It's a common tale in this region. If you go to the library, it would even be on their recommended reading list. Oh, great. Telling stories in such a dark, creepy place. She must have a horror story in mind. Shion's face bellowed nothing but calm. She had the same personality as me, and she'd have found fault with me being scared. I endured it for now and pretended to be calm. Okay, alright, I'll read it. After confirming that I was going to be quiet and listen, she began to speak softly like a kindergarten teacher reading a picture book. Long, long ago, in a certain village in the mountains, there was a swamp. This swamp was very, very deep. Some even called it bottomless. People said it was connected to hell, the land of demons. The rumor said it was deeper than the ocean, and that anyone it swallowed would sink into the underworld, a bottomless swamp. Its name was Onigafuchi, Demon Village. Wait, I thought back to the story I heard yesterday about the sacrifices sinking the bottomless swamp. Could that be the swamp she's talking about? So then the village was Hinamizawa, right? You catch on quickly. That's right. Though it was called Onigafuchi Village at the time. Onigafuchi Village, that's a pretty inauspicious name. It evokes quite the image, doesn't it? I hear that the name was changed in the Meiji period. The name of the swamp connected to hell was called Onigafuchi, which meant the demon's abyss. And the true name of this village, Hinamizawa, was Onigafuchi Village, the demon's village. The villagers belonged to the abyss or to hell, in other words. They lived their lives worshipping the swamp, said to connect to it. But then one day, demons began to appear one after the other from deep in the swamp. The villagers feared that hell was overflowing. The demons mercilessly attacked the villagers. They could only watch in fear. They could not they could no more than hide themselves and tremble. So did someone exterminate them? Unfortunately, there is no Monotaru or Superman in this fairy tale. Then did they get the whole village together to fight them? Heavens no. The villagers weren't nearly strong enough to fight on equal terms with the demons. Then the only recourse would be to flee the village. They couldn't do that either. To the villagers, it was their beloved homeland. It didn't matter how terrifying the demons, they wouldn't have run away so easily. Then what did they do? Wouldn't they just get wiped out? Unable to fight and unable to run. All they could do was wait for the village to be destroyed. Then, when everyone had lost hope, their god, Oashiro, descended unto them. I see. So Oashiro came down from the sky and beat up all the demons then. Mm, no! You're such a boy, Keichan. You always jump straight to using force to resolve things. Shion sighed, a little annoyed. Embarrassed, I held my tongue. The thing about Urashiro, he wasn't a violent god who would beat them up, like you're saying. He was a kind god filled with love and benevolence. The strength of Urashiro descended from the heavens couldn't be compared to that of the demons. They didn't even fight, they simply prostrated themselves before his radiant authority. Urashio urged them to go back to hell from whence they came, but the demons wept and challenged them, saying they could never return. The world of the demons, too, has harsh commandments. They claimed they had been banished from hell. Demons, who didn't have a place to go either in hell or in the human world. Of course, they were at fault for attacking the village. They deeply reflected on it and were sorry. As the villagers conversed amongst themselves, little by little they came to pity the demons, and after talking with everyone in the village, they decided to live alongside them. A lot of fairy tales have them being exterminated or driven away, but you don't often hear one where they live in peace. You're right. Demons are supposed to symbolize all evils. A story where they decide to live together with humans is certainly strange. When the demons first heard the villagers' invitation, they doubted their ears but soon burst into tears of joy. The villagers had given them a place to live. That was said It was said that in payment for this good deed, the demons shared their many kinds of power and secrets with the villagers. Orashiro was very pleased with this happy exchange. He gave the demons the bodies of humans so they would be indistinguishable from the villagers. He himself decided to stay on the surface and watch over the everlasting peace between them, a land in which man, demon, and god lived together. I had thought the word demon was a noun meaning evil that needs to be exterminated. A god may have meditated for them or mediated for them, but you don't often hear happy endings like this that where both sides live in harmony. I see. I guess it is kind of interesting. Though the normal fairy tale ends there, it was revised quite a bit during the Edo period into a much longer story. After that, the demons intermixed, and eventually there was no difference between them. So the demons ended up disappearing? No, not at all. Wow, I actually had that next line. Half of them stayed just as they were. The knowledge the villagers had received from the demons basically made them into something inhuman, what people called transcendence. They were well aware the power they had was hearsay, and that as those worshipped them, they lived out their lives in secrecy. This story is the root of many derivative tales and pieces of fiction. It's the foundation, I mean. The basics. What do you mean by root? She means the part where the villagers having demon blood. What I mean is, all of the legends from around here are based on the premise that the villagers are descended from demons. There's a hint of amusement in Shion's face as she said that. It was like she wanted to say that she too had demon blood in her. Is there any proof though? Maybe it's somehow rooted in historical fact beyond just fairy tales. Oh, Mabara, then do you believe that demons really did come out of the swamp and breed with humans? Well, it's not that I don't believe it, but when she said demons, she meant the ones from hell. But in ancient Japan, the word wasn't necessarily used to denote only that kind, right? The more well known use involves the drifting foreigner theory. As the story goes, Westerners who were shipwrecked in nearby seas had such markedly different customs that they were called demons. Japanese people were relatively similar in appearance to other Asians, but everything about those from the West were different. Their physique, their faces, their skin color. In Japan, terms like red demon and blue demon evoked images, especially of Westerners. Yes. For reasons. Lacking a skin pigment, Westerners would sunburn easily and turn red. Being fair-skinned, I think blood vessels appearing on their skin would look blue, too. Yes, they do. I'm looking at my own and I can see my own veins. A handful of accidental aliens would drift into Japan and came under perception being called demons. They would flee into the mountains to survive, turn into bandit groups, and attack villages for food and the like. How does that explanation sound? Maybe it's a bit childish. Techno gave me a weird smile when, having come up with such an impromptu hypothesis, I unconsciously followed it up with self-deprecation. Still, she didn't smile as if to make fun of me. It's not ridiculous. There are a lot of people who subscribe to the drifting foreigner theory. Even so, nobody actually knows what happened. Were they groups of foreigners who had turned into banditry, or were they really demons who had come from the bottom of the world? Then, Takano, which one do you believe? Truth of the matter aside, I'd rather believe the more fantastic explanation. It's more fun that way, isn't it? So the demons. Her answer made her sound a wee bit like a romanticist. Here I thought she'd reject unreal stories like that. Now then, this is where the fun begins. Tagna brought an end to her storyline and waits for the moment, as if to tyrannize us. Suddenly, Shion looked around as if something had caught her eye. Her head bobbed to and fro like she was making sure nothing had changed. What's wrong, Shion? I'm sorry. Please don't worry about it. Shion pretended as nothing had happened. Takano also made sure nothing had happened, then cleared her throat and broached the next subject. I explained that half the villagers had demon blood. That blood, they actually say that it's the blood of the kind of demon that eats people. Man-eating demons. That escalate quickly. That blood still runs through the villagers' veins. They say that sometimes the blood awakens from its slumber. I thought the fairy tale had a happy ending, but with the humans and demons live in peace, but it began to suddenly change into a brutal, bloody story. Well, they eat people. They say that every decade or so, they can't help but want to feast on human flesh. The villagers can't eat other villagers. So when this happens, it's said that they descend on the human villages and conduct okina, o, onikakushi. What's a onikakushi? Demon away. Broadly speaking, is when a demon kidnaps someone, when when a person is demoned away. For those who do not know, Onikakushi was the first chapter's story. Uh, What's Nagnashi is this one. So you have it goes Kind Drifting arc, and this is the Demon Drifting, or this is I want to say this is the Demon Drifting arc. That's what this one's called. I can't remember. They say that the villagers of Onigafuchi would overwhelm unfortunate human villagers in order to kidnap sacrifices. Tagno's expression was plain and simple, but when I imagined what it must have been like, it was terrifying. They lose their human reason. The villagers turn into real demons en masse. They attack the villagers they loathe in the dirty world of the masses below. Oh, yay. And then they kill and eat their sacrifices. So they're no different from demons after all. What did Orashiro do? Wasn't he supposed to be staying in the village and watching over them? Orashiro knew about it, of course. Onikakuchi isn't indiscriminate. The villagers apparently never kidnapped anyone other than the sacrifices decided upon by their god. In a text, it's usually one or two people. A village inhabited by those both human and inhuman. It's like the hurt heartwarming episode's colors had inverted, like negative film, revealing the painful and ugly truth. So on the nights when they raided villages, they would feast on their kidnapped sacrifices, which is why the nights came to be known as Watanagashi. Watanagashi. Tonight's festival was Watanagashi. I just couldn't reconcile the fun festival with a horrible tale Takano was telling me. Watanashi, well, wasn't it about giving thanks to the futons we use over the winter or something? Yeah, the Cotton Drifting Festival. Kei-chan, Wata has another meaning, you know. It means entrails. Shion, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Entrails. Entail drifting. Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Like fish guts. Wait, what? Like a jigsaw puzzle, the fun times I had today, and Tagno's grotesque tale clicked together in my mind. One Nagashi. So gut spilling. Kind drifting? Entrail drifting. I didn't think saying that could ever feel so nauseating. Yes. So as you imagine, Mavara, right now the Wanashi Festival might just be a somewhat early summer festival occurring every June, but it used to be different. It used to be a ghastly, cannibalistic feast held on the night the villagers had collected their unfortunate dinner. That can't be true. I had no real reason to say that, but I couldn't help it. Alright, you said that Wanashi is a ritual about purifying futons, right? What do you think the futons filled with cotton, with wata, represent? Futons are futons. They're beds. They're things for sleeping in. What else could they possibly represent? I was rattling on, desperately attempting to deny the horrible festival that Takano was describing. Deep down, however, I found myself understanding all too well what she meant. Futons stuffed with cotton. The cotton represented entrails in both pronunciation and meaning. The entrail filled futons would have to be humans. Why don't you think back to the offertory dance Rika performed? Do you know what she was doing up there? No, I don't. I didn't even watch the whole thing anyway. Shh, Kichan, you're getting too worked up. Shion grabbed one of my ears and reminding me that this wasn't somewhere I should raise my voice. Even so, I still can't suppress this agitation I feel. Rika was carrying a festival hoe. You probably realized it already, but that's not a hoe for plowing fields. It's a tool for dissecting human bodies. I didn't see the dance all the way through, so I don't know what kind of performance Rika was putting on after I left. When I told this to Tanako, she kindly explained Rika's dance to me. To summarize what she said, after what I'd seen, Rika would pierce the futons with that hoe, cut them open, and pull out the cotton inside. She cut the cotton out one bit at a time and set it afloat. That's the kind of that's the kind of ritual it was. So basically, yes, she's breaking the futons open and pulling the cotton out so everyone can drift it down the river. Broadly speaking, it was quite the bombastic ceremony where they rip open the guts and throw them into a basin. And then the ritual was over. It's thought that afterwards the villagers, each with a different role, dismantled the flesh piece by piece, feasted upon it. As talking to a strangely happy giggle, I felt for some reason violent displeasure. Rika, every day bringing our lunch break, she'd take a rice pounding mallet into the schoolyard, and she worked so hard swinging bullets to practice for the offertory dance she had done today. All that effort, all that work. Takano disgraced it, even though she worked so hard to practice for today. Takano, I think you should choose your words more carefully. Kei-chan's pretty naive, so please don't tease him so much. Moment before I opened my mouth to express how angry I was, Shion stopped me. She must have been fully aware of how that story made me feel. I'm sorry, I thought you like a story with that sort of shock value since you're a boy. Takano spoke without a hint of malice as she smiled gracefully. After hearing all that, did you figure out what kind of stuff is in this storehouse, Kei-chan? See, look, Shion pointed at one of the walls vaguely illuminated by the lantern's light. There was, mere moments ago, they hadn't held my interest. They were just boring looking tools lined up on the shelves. Uh, all those uninteresting tools that I didn't understand how to use, they all suddenly took on a new meaning, and I couldn't help but let out a groan. First, they had looked like carpentry tools, like chisels or planes. However, when I thought back, I'd see pictures of these sort of tools. I've seen pictures of these sort of tools before. Yeah, they came up in a Japanese history textbook. Yes, on the page interesting the Kaitai Shinsho or the new test of anatomy. These sort of things, they're printed realistically in the literature of Germany, capital of the medical world. These aren't carpentry tools. These strangely shaped tools, they're for dissection. Everyone knows that in the Indo period, they would dissect the corpse of those who had been put to death in order to gain knowledge about Western medical techniques. Illustrations of dissection tools they used at the time came in the textbook supplements. Yeah. The things that hung up on this wall all look exactly the same as those. If you want a scarier way of looking at it, think of them as cooking utensils. Takano holding the lantern to the only light source of the room led us along the wall. She had the only light, so I had to walk after her whether I like it or not. Look, Takano illuminated a coiled chain, which left a bigger impression than the other things we saw. The chain in itself was nothing unusual, but far along it were metal filters that were like hinges, clearly meant for binding people. Kei-chan, look at that. She untapped me on the shoulder and pointed to a restraining table, which was clearly shaped like a person. My spine froze. My blood felt like it was turning into sherbet as it crawled up my back. On each of the joints, there were things like chains and iron balls attached. It was like the table was searching for its next sacrifice, ready to spread their arms wide and close them in. Basically, what they're seeing is torture devices that you saw during the Indo period, or us Westerners would know as medieval time torture devices. Wheel with spikes all along it, chain uh, devices to stretch a person out until they're torn in half. Yeah, that's what they're seeing. It's probably a chopping block. I think you strap the sacrifice down to prep them for eating. The words chopping block sent a jolt through my body. If I looked more closely, there were many dark slices carved into it as though from a knife or a saw. They were the most clear-cut signs of usage you could ask for. It proved these tools weren't just for show, they were used for their original purpose. Oh, yay. If someone strapped tightly onto this table, they probably wouldn't be able to move even a muscle. Their guts would be defenseless. You take one of those eerie cooking knives lined up over there, stab them with it, and then you slice open their belly and dissect them. I heard the stories, but this is incredible. Before coming in here, Shion had mentioned she had a good guess of what was inside, but it seems to have exceeded her imagination. There's still more. How about it? More fascinating than a wax museum, isn't it? Takano had this happy expression like she was visiting a toy store for the first time. I don't get it. This This Mio Takano person has nerves of steel. Are these bizarre, grotesque objects that fascinating to her? I, for one, was not enjoying myself. I'll be frank, this is all too weird for me. Still, there was something even more horrifying than all this. It would be none other than Takano herself. Takano holding a lantern, giving off such a thin beam of light, she suddenly turned it off. Then what would I do when the next moment everything went totally dark? That's why I was scared. Takano had the only light, and anyway, I was scared. At some point, Shion had started holding onto my shirt sleeve. It was a little annoying to walk like that, but I didn't shake her off. That minor sensation allowed me to feel the presence of my ally here and now. Before we even walked halfway through the storehouse, the air I felt on my skin changed completely. Oh no. These cruel tools lined up, all crammed together in this place. Some were horrible ones made to take away sacrifice freedom, and some were made to efficiently disassemble and prepare the bodies for consumption. Those were just the things I understood. There was plenty of other strange looking objects that I couldn't even guess the purpose of. Now that I was here, I didn't have the slightest desire to hear the details about what sort of terrifying reasons they were meant to be used for. At the very least, they were all completely different from the sort of clean, simple killing function of a katana. Yeah. Tools to kill people were obviously constructed in such a way that they could kill people. If that was the goal, then the person you used them on obviously end up dead. The kind of tools here, however, were different. The tools that were here were for cutting people, for crushing them, for boiling them and cooking them, and for grinding them. They were tools of torture. They weren't made to kill people. People dying was just an accidental result. Actually, they might not even kill them. If the sacrifice could die during such a horrifying ritual process, that would be nice. But they don't even die in it. They remain in a state of hellish pain. Perhaps they were only being allowed to live. Only now in this moment did I fully realize was how terrifying and fearsome that difference was. People, you see, most of these wouldn't kill them if used purposely. Takno, as if reading my mind, displayed a shocking smile. Burning at the stake, the famous method of execution for witches, will kill the person immediately. When the body suffers extreme burns on the skin all over, the decomposition of the skin's chemical makeup produces poison-like symptoms and causes immense shock to the victim. Though I suppose it's still very cruel compared to the guillotine. You'll have to wait far longer for that to happen. Yes, hence why people can survive with third-degree burns. She describes such horrors in a strangely medical way. She immediately answered the question I had. Takano is a nurse. There's a saying that nothing can scare a doctor. I guess it's true. Oh, and also, there was a method of execution in ancient Rome where they would grill a person, just like barbecue. They would cover the person in wire netting and slowly cook them over a charcoal fire. Um, oh shit, which torture device is that? That's the fucking Iron Bear thing. Uh, or whatever it was. Just a giant bear or boar. You throw the person in, you throw over a fire, and they just burn in there alive, cooking. Oh, I can't remember its name. I wish I could. To think the memories of when I went to a day camp with my family would come rushing back now of all time so vividly. That's what it was like. Apparently, they wouldn't die too easily for some reason. According to one source, even if they roasted one side of a person to a crisp for the entire night, they would still be conscious and able to speak fluently. That's insane. You grilled someone the whole day and they still be conscious. Instead, the ancient Rome, famous for their executions, that have plenty of ways to execute someone while having the victim stay alive as long as possible. Among them, there is one method where they would open the gut, pull out the intestines like sausage, pull them up with a wrench, and put them on public display. Um, oh shit, that's actually what started their hangings. Um, oh shit, I can't remember what that is. But for those that seen like the collector, when the collector cuts the main character's stomach and tortures him with a rat, or I think they did it in Saw too. Uh, where it was cockroaches or something. I don't. One that did cockroaches, one did rats. I can't remember. Shion was behind me, clinging to me. Not just because she was scared. She was protecting her stomach. You would think someone with their intestines pulled out would die instantly, right? No. Better way for people that don't watch horror movies. Raise 0 if you watch anime. Your first arc with Elza, I believe is her name. The Visceration Assassin, who's in her current fucking arc. Um, yeah. Every time Subaru has died and his stomach's been cut open. That's what she's talking about right now. Actually, as long as you do it tenderly and thoroughly, it's apparently possible to pull them all out while the person is still conscious. Yes, you can have an evisceration, which is when your intestines comes out of your stomach, and you can actually put it back in as long as you wrap your intestines in a damp cloth. Yes, my medical knowledge is coming in handy there. I felt a sick feeling in my stomach. It was like my organs were curling up just from talking to stare. But though pulling them out with a wrench was a rather aggravated method, in a more barbaric way, they might slice open the gut, then cut the intestines out and throw them everywhere. It's quite imaginable if they did dreadful things like that too, isn't it? However, those being put to death are conscious. It must be far more terrifying than painful. She spoke with pleasure as if she had come here on a sightseeing trip. I heard Shion gulp multiple times near my ears. Perhaps Imazawa, or rather Onigafuchi village, did something like that for the Wanashi festival. Listen, if you try hard, can't you hear it? I wanted nothing more than to not hear anything at all. So why? Why only at times like this do I begin to hear things I shouldn't be able to? Oh, great. Rika's hoe. Tako, having realized she scared Shion and I enough at this point, smiled smoothly. Then she turned on her heel, raised the lantern, and began to walk away. If Takano left us here, we'd get even farther away from the light. Shion and I, no matter how scared we were forced to follow Takano along on our field trip through the ritual storehouse. Ugh. I suppose we've seen a bit of everything. See? This place is interesting, isn't it? She says, raising the lantern high in the center of the storehouse. The dim lighting didn't change, but for some reason it felt like I was able to see all of those horrible tools at once. K-chan, look up. Shion stammered while grabbing the nape of my neck. Uh, couldn't tell because it was so dark, but there was a lot more tools hanging from the ceiling as well. They looked like they were made of iron bars, but then I figured it out. Cages. For cages, they were very small. Cramped cages just for one, like a casket. If you got locked up in there, no, you wouldn't get locked up inside it. It was another tool meant for restraining people, where the iron bars would squeeze you tightly. So many big and large things of all shapes were hanging down. Tagna's mention of execution by grilling crossed my mind. We weren't just surrounded by on all sides by these terrifying instruments. Things crowding the ceilings were even hanging over our heads. There are many of these sort of bird cages among European torture devices. I'm surprised to see them in Japan as well. Mainly I like Iron Maidens. K-chan, is there something in here? A person? A mummy? Where? She unnecessarily pointed to one of the many human-sized bird cages hanging from the ceiling, but I couldn't tell which one she meant. Being that dark, there wasn't any way you could tell if something was there in the first place. I don't see anything. You sure you're not seeing things? Shion didn't seem convinced, but without a means to confirm it ourselves, we couldn't do much but wonder. Mabara, after seeing this, have you come to believe in it and all of it? The countless terrible rituals passed down in Himazawa. It's got nothing to do with believing in them. Now that I've been shown the real thing like this, there's no possible way to deny it. Even the nations of Europe, with all their beautiful landscapes and legends, were like a mild storm during the terrible witch hunts in the Dark Ages. Yes, hence the creation of Iron Maiden and everything else. It's well known that the era gave birth to countless gruesome forms of torture and execution. Japan was the same way, yet the Indo period did that. Didn't have its own era hellscape like torture feast upon a religious suppression and things of that nature. Yeah, again, the Indo and their era. Himazawa itself had such a period. It had that much history behind it. Even in Europe, land of the witch hunts. That was all far in the past, no more than a series of historical events, and in this age, nothing that abnormal would ever happen. That must apply to Himazawa as well. Just as Europe had its dark ages, Himazawa had one too. That's how it should be taken. Even if these things all really happened in Himazawa, they're all long past. They don't have anything to do with people living in Himazawa right now. Mama, you really do like this village. Doesn't sound like she was making fun of me. Takano gave me a light smile. Takano, you're researching whether those customs survived into the present. You are right. She suggested something that made my heart leap into my throat. Are you telling me that all these horrible things are still going on even today? Well, I'm about to tell you a secret, alright? I told you, Shio, because you're an understanding person, but the other villagers don't want to hear it. If things go away, I could be ganged up on and punished. Shion flashed devil's smile as if revi- or rivaling in the immorality of it. Barbara, you keep it a secret too, okay? If this gets out, I could suffer Orashiro's curse, or be made into a sacrifice. If it's the curse, then I wonder what kind of death it will be this year. If it's the sacrifice, then I will be thrown into the Onagafuchi swamp while still alive. It is tonight, you know, the night of Orashiro's curse. Tagno said, bringing her face right up close to ours, as if to say that if she had the choice, she'd rather suffer the curse. That was what she seemed to be implying. Tagno took a fairly worn notebook out of her paper bag and began to flip through the pages. There were all sorts of references and newspaper clippings attached to them, and it had all manner of things written inside. The letters were very small and bunched together, so I couldn't tell at a glance what it was about. What I really like to do is search through the National Library of newspapers from the era, but here it is. A photocopy of a page from some book that was slid into the notebook, and with it, too, was written in small, tight lettering. Oh, yay. Like the other pages, I couldn't tell what it was just by glancing at it. This is a story that actually happened. It was around the end of the Meiji era. They discovered an unknown mangled corpse, the victim of a murder in Onagafuchi village. An old newspaper clipping attached to the page spoke of something that was no mere rumor or fairy tale. We don't have most police documents from the time anymore, so it's all based on oral traditions and memories. See? It's not very clear, but it looks like a cut out of a newspaper from the Meiji era. Never before has there been a corpse treated with such a brutality and inhumanity. Could it be the work of a demon? Being a copy of a copy, it was very hard to make out, but it was more than enough to make me feel strangely tense. Near the end of the Meiji era, an old Onaga village, a mangled corpse was discovered. The identity of the corpse was unknown. It wasn't even in a state where it could be identified in the first place. It was missing a head, and each limb was separated from its body. Skin had been peeled off the entire body, and there were markings that implied terrible torture in every place imaginable. Not only that, but the belly had been cut open by a sharp knife with the entrails completely dragged out. The police immediately began the investigation, but since they couldn't even determine the identity of the victim, much less the criminal, finding answers was extremely difficult. Do you understand what it must have been like? Couldn't imagine such a strange sight even if I tried. This is the first time I was even thankful for my lack of imagination. The victim was skinned while still alive, underwent all kinds of torture, and was killed brutally. The author here also thinks that even after death, the remains were divided and dissected even further. The interpreting of inhumanity. Oh, yay. Uh, I'm of the opinion that the entire process was performed while the person was still alive, though. Uh, what do you think, Mabara? She spoke in a way intended to make me imagine even more vicious things. As my brain was already far over capacity, however, there was no way I could imagine anything more brutal. Then, when I broke my gaze from Takano, those strangely shaped weird tools are all around us. I wonder if I could faithfully reproduce the manipulated corpse discovered at the end of the Meiji era with the tools found in this place. I don't want to deny it. I don't want to admit that something so terrible could have happened at all. Yay! Even so, they were so strange, so terrifying, these tools, and as if they were had seen through my attempt to escape from them. They did nothing but ridicule me silently. So that creepy incident, what was it in the end? Thus says that regarding Ogafuchi Village's dreadful customs, they survived into the recent post-Meiji days, and that perhaps they lasted until around the beginning of the Soa period. Oh, yay. This corpse, which at a glance had been brutally killed after a period of torture. In actuality, however, it was a pitiful sacrificial means of the man-eater's terrifying feast. The corpse was just leftovers. It was so fantastic, so strange that it didn't feel real. Was this an extension of the legends too? It happened in the Measure area, though, which is just too recent to be called a legend. Also, there's a newspaper clipping right here suggesting it. Okay, but even if it really did happen, it was a long time ago, right? I mean, the Measure area ended 100 years ago. True, it did. That's all. Only 100 years ago. Besides, it kept happening even after the beginning of the Showa period. Like with the uproar around the post-war canned flesh incident. Oh, I apologize. That story was taboo, wasn't it? Takano immediately stopped talking as if worried about Shion. Shion briefly looked somewhat angry, but that expression soon disappeared. Huh? Takano, what did you just say? Canned flesh? Just then there was a huge creaking noise. Everyone whipped around to look. It was Tomitake who had opened the door slightly. Did I startle you? Oh, Jiro, could you not resist seeing inside? This is a splendid treasure trove of torture devices. I'll pass on that. I'm bad with this sort of thing by nature. Techno held her stomach and had to muffle her laughter, as she wanted to make a comment about his masculinity. In any case, the dance and ceremony are over and everyone's going down to the stream. The festival will be over in minutes. Oh, that's no good. My brother is just such a good listener that I couldn't help telling stories. I really rare you not mention me in a place like this. Jiro, could you wait out front? I want to take a few pictures. There are actually a lot of tools I want to bring home, but we obviously can't do that. No shit. Takano took cam took a camera, god damn it, out of her paper bag and began to snap photographs. She looked like she was having fun, like she was on a scavenger hunt. Keiichi, are you leaving too? I've seen enough. Shion, you're good too, right? Let's get out of here. I want some fresh air. I agree. Let's leave. I did feel a bit of hesitation at leaving Takano by herself in this darkness. When I thought about it, though, I realized that whatever kinds of evil spirits or ghosts lurked in the darkness, none of them could hold a candle on how scary she was. Even if a phantasm were to appear, she'd be overjoyed and flash her camera at it. Seemed like Shion shared my somewhat rude mental images. We exchanged glances and smiled painfully. We left Takano there, bathed in her strobe of camera flashes, and decided to go leave the ritual storehouse. Everyone at the festival seemed to have gone to the stream, so their voices were very distant. The voices of the bugs, on the other hand, were clear, lending an empty feeling of isolation to the place. How was it? Interesting? Tomitake gave us a somewhat mischievous grin. He should have been able to tell by looking at how pale our faces were. I should have kept watch outside with you, Tomitake. Tomitake laughed so delightfully that it whipped away our dark feelings. Or wiped away our dark feelings. How did you fare, Shion? Were you scared? I was prepared for it, but I wasn't too afraid, but seeing the real thing was powerful. Shion spoke like she wasn't scared at all. She really had been quite afraid, but seeing as how I was in a way worse of state than her, I didn't have much room to talk. As Tomitake grinned candidly, my mind, exhausted and locked up by nervousness, began to calm itself. Was talking to an adult about this little expedition. You know how she seems like a child sometimes. I was worried she'd be way too excited. Both Shion and I laughed and left that as our answer. Hopefully she was only looking at things. I'm worried she'll sneak something out of there or mess with the instruments too much and break it or something. Right, that's quite possible. She is alone in there right now. She might pilfer something small and easily conceal it, hiding it in her pocket. Yeah, I can see that. Shion said as what I was thinking. You're sure she didn't break anything? I could clearly hear some noise like someone jumping up and down. I was getting pretty nervous. I'm sorry, I ran out of film. Jiro, if you have any more, can I use some? Tugna suddenly appeared while we were talking about her, taking everyone by surprise. Tomitaka smoothly grinned and responded as if nothing had happened. He's pretty mature. I'm all out of spare film. Sorry about that. Sheesh. You won't win any poster prizes by not stocking enough film for any occasion, you know. I suppose that's it then. Tomitake scratched his head apologetically. Without film, we're done here. Takano seemed to have given up because of that too. We checked here to make sure we hadn't left anything inside, then closed the door and turned to the heavy padlock we left beside it. Takano, you didn't sneak anything out, right? How rude. I'm trying not to be that childish. Kerlink. Tomitake set the padlock back to the way it was before. From a cursory glance, it didn't look like thieves had snuck in at all.